Well, thank you. And joining us now is Bishop Edward Burns of Juneau, Alaska. And thank you, Bishop, for being here today.
Oh, Kevin, thank you for having me.
Maybe if you could, I know you've been in the position a short time, but maybe if you could tell us about your experience, taking over as the head of the Diocese of Juneau.
Sure. The Bishop of the Diocese of Juneau is actually in the southeast part of the great state of Alaska. It encompasses approximately 38,000 square miles. It's about the size of Florida. And we have 1,000 islands in the diocese. It encompasses the inside passage of Alaska. And as you probably know, we get a lot of tourists up through the inside passage. You hear about people going on Alaska cruises. So it comes right up through that whole area. So we see in the city of Juneau alone about 1 million people during the tourist season.
Wow.
It's exciting. We have 9 priests in the diocese. We have 16 parishes and missions. We are a part of the home missions of the United States Conference of Bishops. And the ministry is rich. The overall Catholic population is about 10%. And with that, we are the largest faith community of Southeast Alaska. What we found is that the overall population is about 60% unchurched. So when I first heard that, I thought, well, here's going to be a wonderful challenge.
So talk about that too. And I know in reaching out to people with the amount of land that you have to cover, the amount of area, and how you go about doing that. I know you're sort of new in the position as well, but maybe some of the ideas or some of the things you're doing.
Sure. While it's a large area geographically, it actually is a small community. There's probably overall population of about 100,000 people up and down southeast Alaska. Okay. The population of the city of Juneau and its borough is about 30,000. So what I find is that in reaching out to people, the radio is a significant way of advancing the mission of the church and the gospel message. So I find myself on the radio a fair bit. I was just on an hour-long talk show on our nation's healthcare issues, and it was a call-in show. But it really is a wonderful way to get the message out.
And I know there's new technologies going on too, and with the computer and webcasting and things like that. Any plans like that going on?
Sure. One thing that in a diocese is spread out as the Diocese of Juneau, I asked the priests of the diocese, all 9 of them, if they would participate in a conference call every Monday morning, whereby on the conference call, we have a chance to catch up and find out how everything's going how everything went over the weekend. But then we also pray morning prayer together. So at about 8:15, 8:20, we begin our morning prayer. And it's a wonderful way for us to connect as priests of the diocese, stay very close to each other in providing priestly ministry and pastoral ministry to the people of Southeast Alaska. Knowing that there are some villages that don't have a resident priest, I'm looking at establishing evenings with the bishop with some of the missions and some of the parishes, whereby we'll use Skype or a conference call or speakerphone or whatever the case might be. It's a way to use technology combined with ministry to make our diocese a little smaller.
We'll talk about maybe your experience now, and I know you've been involved in many different things, and also you were at the seminary as well in Pittsburgh. So talk about the transition and what that was like, becoming a bishop and taking over the head of a diocese.
Well, it came as a shock, that's for sure. I had served at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in Washington, D.C. for 10 years. After that, I went back to my home diocese of Pittsburgh as the rector of St. Paul's Seminary. Well, life was always brisk. It was always one project after another. To be then the recipient of a call that I'm going to be a bishop shocked me. Then of Juneau, Alaska shocked me. But what I found is that it truly is living out the gospel. Jesus called his apostles and he sent them to the ends of the earth to proclaim the gospel message. And so I go to the far corners of this country to proclaim, the gospel and the teachings of the church. It's exciting. Life is different in Southeast Alaska than inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. And the way in which I live out my ministry as the Bishop of Juneau is a way in which I encompass the culture of Southeast Alaska. For example, if I go out to Teneke Springs, where we have the St. Francis Mission, what I have to do is I have to get onto a float plane, and weather permitting, we take off from the water, and knowing that there's a lot of fog sometimes that can delay a flight, when the people at the village of Teneke Springs hear the plane coming, it's then that they start to gather for Mass, because when they hear the plane, then they know that the priest or the bishop is arriving. So the float plane takes the place of church bells. So it really is interesting. It's a whole another life, but boy, is it beautiful. There's not an ugly part of Southeast Alaska.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Maybe as we wrap it up, but maybe if you could talk about the people that you've encountered in your diocese, the people there, and that you see gathering for Mass as you're coming in the plane. What are they like?
I could not have received a warmer welcome. I am just so happy to be in the Diocese of Juneau. When I first arrived for the announcement that Pope Benedict XVI had named me the bishop, a number of people approached me after the press conference and said, "We've been praying for you specifically." And I looked at them, I said, "What do you mean you've been praying for me specifically?" They said, "We didn't know who the Holy Spirit had in store for us, but we knew that the Holy Spirit had someone in mind for us. And we were praying for that man specifically. And so we've been praying for you." I have to tell you, Kevin, when they said that to me, it endeared my heart to them. Yeah. And so it really did start off a great relationship of my getting to know them, to love them, to serve them, to minister to them. It's a phenomenal ministry. I'm just blessed by God.
Well, thanks for sharing with us that ministry. And thank you as well. We're going to turn back to the rest of This Is the Day.